The world in 2026 moves faster than ever, and most people are drowning in noise, chasing things that don't matter, and wondering why they still feel empty. What if I told you that the secret to genuine happiness isn't out there in the chaos, but right here in principles that have stood the test of thousands of years? The Stoics figured this out centuries ago, and it's more relevant now than ever. Let me start with something that'll probably make you uncomfortable. You're chasing the wrong things. Most of what you think will make you happy won't. That promotion, that relationship, that purchase you've been eyeing, they might bring temporary pleasure, but happiness, real lasting happiness, that comes from somewhere entirely different. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner you can stop wasting your life on empty pursuits. Here's what nobody tells you. Happiness isn't something you find. It's something you build brick by brick, decision by decision, morning by morning. It's not a destination you arrive at after achieving enough success or accumulating enough stuff. It's a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice, discipline, and the right knowledge. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the world, wrote in his personal journal that true happiness comes not from external circumstances, but from how we choose to respond to life. Epictetus, who started life as a slave, taught that freedom and joy are found in accepting what we cannot control and mastering what we can. These weren't just philosophers theorizing in ivory towers. They were people who faced real struggles, real pain, and real chaos, yet they found peace. So what does this mean for you in 2026? It means you need to fundamentally shift how you approach life. The old models don't work anymore. Grinding yourself into exhaustion doesn't lead to happiness. Constantly comparing yourself to others on social media doesn't lead to happiness. Waiting for circumstances to be perfect doesn't lead to happiness. What does work? 10 specific principles that, when applied consistently, transform not just how you feel, but who you become. These aren't quick fixes or life hacks. They're foundational truths that require commitment. But I promise you this, if you apply them, your life in 2026 will look radically different than it does right now. Let's start with the first one, and it's going to challenge everything you believe about control. You need to understand that most of what happens in life is beyond your control. Your boss's mood, the economy, other people's opinions, the weather, traffic, even your own thoughts sometimes, none of it is truly within your power to dictate. Yet you spend enormous amounts of energy trying to control these things. You stress about what people think. You worry about outcomes you can't influence. You lose sleep over scenarios that may never happen. This is exhausting. More than that, it's pointless. The Stoics had a simple framework. They divided everything into two categories: things within your control and things outside your control. Things within your control: your actions, your responses, your effort, your character, your choices. That's it. Everything else, outside your control. When you truly internalize this, something remarkable happens. You stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. You stop trying to change other people. You stop obsessing over outcomes and start focusing on process. You become free. Imagine you're stuck in traffic on your way to an important meeting. You have two options. Option 1, rage at the cars around you, honk your horn, stress about being late. Let your blood pressure spike. Option 2. Accept that traffic is beyond your control. Use the time to listen to something valuable. Arrive calm instead of frazzled. Same situation, completely different experience. This isn't about being passive or not caring. It's about directing your energy where it actually makes a difference. Pour your effort into what you can control, how you show up, how you treat people, how you respond to setbacks, how you spend your time. Let go of the rest. But here's where it gets interesting. Most people can't let go because they're addicted to the illusion of control. Worrying feels like doing something. Stressing feels productive. It's not. It's just suffering dressed up as effort. The next principle builds directly on this, and it's about something you do every single morning without even thinking about it. What you focus on shapes your entire reality, and most people have trained themselves to focus on exactly the wrong things. Your brain is constantly filtering information. Right now, there are millions of stimuli around you, sounds, sensations, thoughts, but you're only aware of a tiny fraction. What determines which fraction? Your focus. And your focus is a habit. If you've trained yourself to focus on problems, you'll see problems everywhere. If you've trained yourself to focus on threats, the world will feel dangerous. If you've trained yourself to focus on what's missing, you'll always feel lacking. This isn't positive thinking nonsense. This is neuroscience. The Stoics called this attention discipline, and they considered it one of the most important practices. Where your attention goes, your life follows. If you spend your morning scrolling through outrage and negativity, you're programming your brain to see the world through that lens. If you spend it in reflection and gratitude, you're programming something entirely different. Here's what this looks like practically. Tomorrow morning, before you pick up your phone, before you check the news, before you dive into the chaos, take 5 minutes. Just 5. Ask yourself, what deserves my attention today? What actually matters? What can I control? This simple practice changes everything because it puts you in the driver's seat. Instead of reacting to whatever the world throws at you, you're choosing your focus deliberately, and that choice compounds. Day after day, you're training your brain to see opportunities instead of obstacles, solutions instead of problems, growth instead of setbacks. But there's a third element here that most people completely miss, and it's the difference between people who understand these principles and people who actually transform their lives with them. That element is action. Understanding without action is just entertainment. You can know all the philosophy in the world, memorize every quote, understand every principle. Doesn't matter. If you don't act, nothing changes. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people lose themselves. They collect insights like trophies, feeling smarter with each new concept they learn, but their lives stay exactly the same. Why? Because knowledge alone changes nothing. Only applied knowledge transforms. Think about fitness. Everyone knows how to get in shape. Eat better, move more, sleep enough. Simple, yet most people struggle their entire lives. Not because they lack information, but because they lack consistent action. The same applies to emotional freedom. Reading about not caring what others think doesn't free you. Actually practicing it does. Hearing that you should focus on what you control doesn't shift your life. catching yourself worrying about uncontrollable things and deliberately redirecting that energy does. Here's what separates people who grow from people who stay stuck. The ones who grow have a bias toward action. They don't wait until they feel ready. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They take the insight and immediately ask, what's one thing I can do right now with this? Could be tiny, could be imperfect, doesn't matter. Movement creates momentum. Let me show you exactly what this looks like. You learn that your reactions are your choice. Great. Now what? Tomorrow, when someone cuts you off in traffic, that's your laboratory. Instead of your usual reaction, pause. Choose differently. That's where the transformation actually happens. Not in understanding the concept, but in that specific moment when you override your default pattern, or you realize you're giving too much weight to others' opinions. Excellent. But the real work begins the next time you feel that familiar anxiety about what someone thinks. In that moment, you have to consciously choose to value your own assessment more. Once, then again, then 100 more times until it becomes natural. This is why morning routines matter so much, but not for the reason most people think. It's not about the routine itself. It's about creating a daily practice ground for these principles. Each morning becomes a training session. You're not just planning your day, you're programming your responses. You're not just setting intentions, you're building new neural pathways. Consider this. Every action you take is a vote for the person you're becoming. Skip the morning reflection. That's a vote for reactive living. Choose to sit with your thoughts instead. Vote for intentional living. Let someone's comment ruin your morning. Vote for external control. Catch yourself and choose calm. Vote for internal power. The person who wins is simply the one who casts more votes in the right direction. You don't need perfection. You need consistency. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Real change requires you to act before you feel like it. Your emotions will lag behind your new behaviors. You'll choose the disciplined response while still feeling the pull of the old pattern. That discomfort is growth. Most people quit right there. They think something's wrong because it doesn't feel natural yet. Nothing new feels natural at first. You're literally rewiring decades of conditioning. Of course, it feels strange. The question isn't whether it feels comfortable. The question is, are you willing to act anyway? Every single day, you're either building the person you want to become or reinforcing the person you've always been. There's no neutral. Even inaction is a choice. Even staying the same requires effort, the effort of resisting growth. So which effort do you want to invest? The effort of change or the effort of staying stuck while watching your life pass by? Now, all of this assumes something crucial. It assumes you actually know what you want. Most people don't. They know what they don't want. Sure, they can list their complaints endlessly, but ask them what they're building toward. Silence. This is the fourth principle, and it might be the most important one. Clarity precedes power. You can't hit a target you haven't identified. You can't build a life you haven't envisioned. You can't make good decisions without knowing what good means for you. Vague goals create vague results. I want to be happy means nothing. What does happiness look like for you specifically? What does your ideal day contain? What relationships? What work? What does success actually mean? Not society's definition, yours. Most people are living someone else's blueprint, parents' expectations, society's standards, social media's highlight reel. They're chasing goals they don't actually want, then wondering why achievement feels empty. The Stoics were obsessed with this. Know thyself seems simple. It's not. It requires brutal honesty. It requires questioning everything you think you want and asking, is this actually mine or did someone else plant it? Here's how you find out. Imagine you achieved the goal. Really imagine it. You got the promotion, the relationship, the body, whatever. Now what? How do you feel? What does your day look like? If that vision doesn't genuinely excite you, if it doesn't feel like coming home, it's probably not your goal. Someone else's definition of success is running your life. This clarity work isn't optional. Without it, you're drifting. You might be productive, busy, even accomplished. But you're building someone else's dream while yours collects dust. Tomorrow morning, ask yourself, what do I actually want? Not what should I want, not what looks impressive. What lights something up inside me? What would I pursue even if no one ever knew? Strip away the audience, the approval, the external validation. What remains? That's your answer. That's what deserves your energy. Everything else is noise. Once you have that clarity, everything shifts. Decisions become easier, distractions lose their grip. You stop saying yes to things that don't serve your vision. You stop feeling guilty about it too. Clarity is the filter that protects your time and energy from everything that doesn't matter. But knowing what you want is only half the equation. The other half is accepting what it costs. Every choice has a price, not just money, time, comfort, other opportunities, relationships, parts of your old identity. The life you want requires you to pay in the currency of sacrifice, and most people aren't willing to write that check. You want the thriving business, but not the years of grinding in obscurity. You want the strong relationship, but not the difficult conversations. You want the healthy body, but not the daily discipline of choosing the salad over the comfort food. You want the result without the process. That's not how reality works. Marcus Aurelius understood this completely. He wrote about the obstacle being the way, not around it, through it. The very thing you're avoiding is the thing that builds you. The discomfort you're resisting is the admission fee to the life you want. There's no back door, no shortcut, no hack that lets you skip the hard part. So ask yourself honestly, what am I willing to sacrifice? Because if you're not willing to give something up, you don't actually want what you say you want. You like the idea of it. That's different. Ideas are easy. Commitment is costly. I see this constantly. Someone says they want financial freedom, but they won't sacrifice their weekend Netflix binges to build a side income. They want the destination without the journey. It doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't negotiate. Pay the price or don't get the prize. Those are your options, and here's what makes it harder. The price is paid up front. You sacrifice now for benefits later. You invest years before you see returns. You show up daily while nothing seems to change. That gap between effort and result is where most dreams die. People quit right before the breakthrough because they can't see it coming. This is where faith comes in. Not religious faith necessarily. Faith in the process. Trust that consistent action compounds. Belief that the work you're doing in private will eventually show up in public. You can't see the roots growing underground, but that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Seneca said it perfectly. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. But you've got to prepare first. You've got to put in the hours nobody sees. You've got to build skills in the dark. Then when opportunity shows up, you're ready. Everyone else calls it luck. You know it was years of invisible work finally becoming visible. The fifth principle ties all of this together. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally do, not what you do when you feel like it, what you do consistently even when you don't feel like it, especially then. Aristotle nailed this centuries ago. Excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. You are your habits. The person you are today is the sum total of your repeated behaviors over the last 5 years. The person you'll be 5 years from now is being built by what you do today. Right now. This moment. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year. They want transformation by Thursday. That's not how humans work. Real change is boring. It's the same simple action repeated until it rewires your brain. One workout doesn't transform your body. One healthy meal doesn't either, but 1,000 of them, that's a different human. Your habits are either building your dream or destroying it. There's no middle ground. Every time you hit snooze instead of getting up, you're voting for the old you. Every time you scroll instead of create, you're reinforcing the pattern you claim you want to break. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're deciding who you'll become. The good news? You get to vote again tomorrow. And the day after that, you're never stuck with yesterday's choices. You can't change the past, but you can change direction right now. This very moment is a chance to cast a different vote. Start smaller than you think you need to. Don't overhaul your entire life on Monday. That's how you burn out by Wednesday. Pick one habit, make it so easy you can't fail, then stack on it. Build momentum gradually. Sustainable change is slow. That's what makes it sustainable. If you want to write a book, don't commit to writing 2 hours daily. Start with 2 sentences. If you want to get fit, don't plan for the gym 6 days a week. Start with 10 push-ups at home. Make the habit so small that skipping it feels ridiculous. Once it's automatic, expand it, but not before. This patience feels painful at first. Your ego wants dramatic transformation. Your ego wants to announce big goals and impress people. Ignore your ego. It's lying to you. Real builders work quietly. They trust the process. They know that showing up consistently beats showing off occasionally. Think about water carving through stone. It doesn't happen because water is powerful in a single moment. It happens because water is relentless over time. Drop after drop after drop. That's you. That's how you change. Not through intensity, through consistency. The person you're becoming is shaped by what you do when no one's watching. When there's no applause, no external motivation, no accountability partner checking in. Just you and your commitment. That's the real test. Can you show up for yourself when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when literally no one would know if you skipped it? That's where character gets built, in the private moments, the unsexy repetitions, the days when nothing feels different yet. Here's part 4, exactly 980 words, continuing seamlessly from part 3. Your habits compound. They don't add up, they multiply. Miss one workout and nothing changes. Miss 100 and you're a different person. Write one page and you're still not an author. Write one page daily for a year and you've got a book. The math is simple, but the execution demands something most people won't give. Time, not talent, not luck, just relentless, boring, unglamorous time. You know what separates people who achieve their goals from those who don't? It's not intelligence, it's not resources, it's not even opportunity. It's the willingness to do the mundane work when it stops being exciting. When the novelty dies, when your friends stop cheering, when social media stops caring. That's when most people quit, right before the breakthrough. They give up 3 feet from gold because they can't see it yet. They wanted instant feedback. They wanted visible progress. They wanted proof that it's working. But transformation doesn't send you progress reports. It works silently in the background while you keep showing up. Then one day you look up and realize you're unrecognizable from who you used to be. That's the magic of compound growth. It's invisible until suddenly it's undeniable. Here's what nobody tells you about building better habits. You will fail. Repeatedly, you'll break your streak. You'll have bad days, bad weeks, maybe bad months. That's not failure. That's being human. The real failure is using one mistake as permission to quit entirely. You miss one morning workout and decide the whole thing is ruined. You eat one unhealthy meal and throw away the entire day. You skip one writing session and convince yourself you're not really a writer. Stop that. One missed rep doesn't erase 100 completed ones. Progress isn't linear. It's messy. It zigs and zags. Sometimes it looks like you're going backwards when you're actually learning what doesn't work. That's valuable too. The key is getting back on track faster each time. First time you break the habit, maybe it takes you 2 weeks to restart. Next time, 2 days. Eventually 2 hours. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for resilience. The ability to stumble and immediately stand back up. That's the skill that changes everything. Most people think motivation comes first, then action follows. They're waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel inspired, waiting for the perfect moment when everything aligns and they finally feel motivated enough to begin. Here's the truth that'll save you years. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. You don't feel like writing, so you write one sentence. That sentence makes you want to write another. You don't feel like exercising, so you put on your shoes. Putting on shoes makes you want to walk out the door. The first step is always the hardest because you're doing it without fuel. But motion generates its own momentum. Once you're moving, staying in motion becomes easier. Newton figured this out with physics. It applies to humans too. Objects at rest stay at rest. Objects in motion stay in motion. Be the object in motion. Your environment shapes your habits more than your willpower does. You can't rely on discipline alone. That's exhausting. Instead, design your space so the right choices become automatic. Want to read more? Put the book on your pillow. Want to eat healthier? Put fruit on the counter and hide the junk food. Want to waste less time on your phone? Charge it in another room. Make good habits obvious and bad habits invisible. You're not weak for struggling with willpower, you're human. Humans take the path of least resistance. So make the path you want to take the easiest one to follow. Remove the friction from positive behaviors, add friction to negative ones. This isn't cheating. This is intelligent design. Every successful person structures their life this way, whether they realize it or not. Think about your morning routine. Is it set up for success or struggle? Do you wake up and immediately face 17 decisions before you've had coffee? That's decision fatigue. You're burning mental energy on things that don't matter. Automate the small stuff. Wear the same style outfit. Eat similar breakfasts. Follow the same morning sequence. Save your decision-making power for things that actually move your life forward. Steve Jobs wore the same thing daily. Obama too. Not because they lacked fashion sense, because they understood that every decision costs energy. Successful people are obsessive about protecting their mental bandwidth. You should be too. Small decisions drain you just like big ones. The what you choose to wear doesn't matter nearly as much as what you choose to build. So stop deciding and start defaulting. Create systems that run on autopilot. Here's the part that stings. You already know what habits you need to change. You know you should sleep more, move more, create more, consume less. You know scrolling for 2 hours nightly isn't helping you. You know skipping breakfast and running on caffeine isn't sustainable. You know avoiding difficult conversations is making everything harder. You already know. Information isn't your problem. Implementation is. You don't need another productivity hack or morning routine video. You need to actually do the thing you keep researching. Stop learning and start practicing. Knowledge without execution is just entertainment. You're not building a better life by watching other people build theirs. You're building it by putting your phone down and doing one small thing right now. Just one. What's the single habit that would make everything else easier? Find it. Name it right now. If you can't answer that question instantly, you're scattered. You're trying to change everything at once, which means you're changing nothing effectively. Pick one keystone habit, the domino that knocks down all the others. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier. That extra time lets you exercise, which gives you energy, which improves your mood, which makes you more productive, which builds confidence. One habit, cascading effects. Or maybe it's cooking one real meal per day. That forces you to plan, shop intentionally, slow down, and fuel yourself properly, which then impacts your energy, focus, sleep, and how you show up everywhere else. See how this works? You're not changing 7 things, you're changing one thing that changes 7 things. That's leverage. Most people fail because they declare war on their entire life at once. New diet, new workout, new sleep schedule, new business, new mindset, all starting Monday. By Wednesday, they're exhausted and back to old patterns. You can't renovate a house while living in it during an earthquake. Stability first, one solid change, then build from there. So stop making lists of 30 habits you want to develop. Start with one, master it for 30 days, let it become automatic. Then add the next one. This is how transformation actually happens. Not through revolutionary overnight change, but through relentless incremental progress. Boring? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Your identity shapes your habits more than your goals do. Someone who wants to quit smoking has a goal. Someone who says, "I'm not a smoker," has an identity. The second person doesn't need willpower. They've changed who they are. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You're not trying to read more. You're becoming a reader. You're not trying to run more. you're becoming a runner. Subtle shift, massive difference. Because goals have finish lines, identities don't. When you hit a goal, the behavior often stops. When you shift identity, the behavior continues indefinitely. That's the real game. You're not building habits, you're building yourself. Each repetition reinforces the identity. Each time you choose the salad, you're voting for healthy person. Each time you sit down to write, you're voting for writer. Each time you show up when you don't feel like it, you're voting for disciplined person. The votes accumulate. Eventually, the identity wins the election. And once it does, the habits become effortless because they align with who you are. Accountability accelerates everything. Going solo sounds noble, but it's inefficient. You need someone who will check on you. Not to judge, but to witness. Tell one person your commitment, report to them daily. It doesn't need to be formal. A text works. The simple act of knowing someone will ask makes you more likely to follow through. Because humans are social creatures. We care about how we're perceived. Use that instead of fighting it. Find an accountability partner who's also building something. Check in with each other every morning, 5 minutes. What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? That's it. No lectures, no therapy sessions, just visibility. The magic isn't in the conversation, it's in knowing the conversation is coming. You'll do the thing because you don't want to report that you didn't. Shallow motivation? Who cares? It works. Track your progress visibly. Put a calendar on your wall. Mark an X every day you complete your habit. Your only job is don't break the chain. Sounds simple because it is. But watching that chain grow becomes addictive. You'll protect it. Miss one day and you feel the loss. That visual feedback loop keeps you honest when motivation fades. And motivation always fades. Discipline is what remains. The chain is your discipline made visible. Jerry Seinfeld used this method to write jokes daily. If it's good enough for someone at that level, it's good enough for you. Forgive yourself immediately when you slip. You will mess up. You'll skip a day. You'll fall back into an old pattern. That's not failure, that's being human. The difference between people who succeed and people who quit is what happens next. Quitters spiral. They miss once, feel guilty, miss again, feel worse, then abandon the whole thing. Winners miss once, shrug, and get back on track the next day. No drama, no self-punishment, just resume. One missed day is a mistake. 2 consecutive days is the beginning of a new habit, and it's the wrong one. So the rule is simple. Never miss twice. Miss once. Forgive yourself. Miss twice, you're in danger. Get back immediately. Habits are freedom, not restriction. People resist routines because they think structure limits spontaneity. The opposite is true. When your foundations are automatic, everything else becomes possible. You don't think about brushing your teeth. That automation frees mental space for creative thinking. You don't negotiate whether to exercise. That decision is already made. That certainty frees emotional energy for things that actually matter. The disciplined life isn't rigid, it's liberated, because you've removed chaos from the baseline. You've built a platform of non-negotiables that lets you take risks everywhere else. Artists need routine to create. Athletes need routine to perform. Entrepreneurs need routine to build. You need routine to become whoever you're trying to become. The structure isn't the cage. The structure is the foundation that lets you fly. So here's what happens next. You close this video and you make one decision, not 7. 1. You commit to it for 30 days. You remove the friction, you track it, you tell someone, you protect the chain, and when you stumble, you get back up without the guilt spiral. 30 days from now, you'll be different. Not because you tried to change everything, because you changed one thing completely. That's the real secret. There is no secret, just reps. You've got the map now. 10 principles that actually work. Not theory, not wishful thinking, just what's been proven for thousands of years and still holds up in 2026. Control what you can, ignore what you can't. Focus deliberately, act immediately, get clear on what you want, pay the price. Build through repetition. Let action create momentum. Design your environment. Change your identity, not just your behavior. And do it all with the understanding that this isn't a sprint, it's the rest of your life. The Stoics didn't write this stuff to sound wise. They wrote it because they lived it, tested it, and watched it work when everything else failed. Your happiness isn't waiting for you somewhere out there. It's being built right here, one choice at a time, starting the moment you decide that today is different. So what's it going to be? Another year of knowing what you should do? Or finally becoming the person who actually does it? The answer shows up in what you do next.